Next, joining us from Washington, D.C., the former chairman of the Central Intelligence Agency, the former chairman of the National Security Agency, retired Air Force General Michael Hayden is with us. Obviously, the Middle East is a topic of concern, but General, before we go there, literally on our doorstep, we've seen quotes from others who currently wear the uniform of this country. I think of Marine Corps General John Hudson, Southern Command, just the other day, saying that we face an existential threat on our southern border. We see the continued flow of illegals into this country. What kind of security threat are we confronting on our border?
Well, JD, that's a fascinating statement by the general, and frankly, quite courageous, because you have to admit, it's more than a note off of the generalized policy statements we're getting here in the national capital region. JD, I've been giving speeches on what keeps me awake at night for the last 5 years since I left government, and one of the locations that's always been in my list of only 5 has been Mexico. And no, not because Mexico's an enemy of the United States, they have revanchist designs against Arizona or anything, but because there are large swaths of ungoverned territory in Mexico. And that border, JD, should be clear to all of us now, is a line on the map. It doesn't really divide or separate Mexico from the United States. And why would we expect that the hideous levels of violence and corruption that we see in Mexico now would stay south of that border just because of that line on the map? So I think the general has made a very true and telling point.
So the headline this morning, as we're having this conversation, General Michael Hayden agrees with General John F. Kelly. This border is an existential threat. Now my question to you, Mike Hayden, militarily, politically, diplomatically, what do we do about it?
Well, JD, it's not an insurgency. I mean, an insurgency has a political aim to overthrow the government. This is a criminal enterprise that's so big and so powerful that as a byproduct, it actually threatens the government. So legally it's different, but tactically and strategically, it might be the same. And the way you go after an insurgency is, number 1, decapitate it. Number 2, deny it safe haven. And number 3, change the facts on the ground that create the insurgency. We've actually done reasonably well with step 1 in cooperation with the Mexican government in terms of decapitating the movement, the drug cartels. But we really haven't done much with the other 2 steps, denying safe haven, and frankly, we've hardly begun with changing the facts on the ground, because really that's the responsibility of the Mexican government and Mexican citizens.
General, I noticed primarily you focus on what is transpiring with Mexico, but how about others using the Mexican border with the United States? I think perhaps of reports we've heard of Iranians and others involved in Islamo-terror using that southern border to come into the United States. There have been those who have said those groups are already here in the United States and they've used our southern border. Would you agree with that assessment?
I would agree with the danger, JD. Look, what you've got are criminal enterprises there who are literally guns for hire, and they are willing to move people and things and stuff across that border for profit, and they are absolutely indifferent who the people or what the things and stuff are, whether they're drugs or small children or terrorists. And so the fact that you've got this ungoverned space and this porous border really does present an opportunity to a whole variety of folks who would want to do harm here in the United States.
All right, General Hayden, I want to focus our attention now on ISIS, a topic we've discussed before here. It's continuing to become more organized right now and is being considered as a new actually the new Al-Qaeda, the tip of the spear of Al-Qaeda. You've said before that we shouldn't consider ISIS being 10 foot tall, some gigantic body. Is there anything that you've seen recently that's changed your mind?
No, not really, but I must admit, they've been impressive. And that show in the mosque in Mosul, where you had al-Baghdadi there and quite openly proclaiming the caliphate, I must admit, just as a professional, that's a very, very impressive performance. But again, they have their limits. I don't think they seriously threaten Baghdad, at least in the sense of taking over territory there. Can they cause harm there? Car bombs and the like? You bet.
Now,
we'll see a lot of that.
One follow-up quickly, General. Is al-Baghdadi overexposed here literally and figuratively now that he's out in this public sphere? Does he become the main target, maybe like bin Laden was, but in a more public way?
He certainly made himself more public. I don't think he's increased our interest in him at all by this appearance. I mean, it's more visible, but I think we knew about him for a very long time. After all, John, he was in our custody, wasn't he?
That's true.
For several years before we let him go in 2009.
General, on that dismaying note, let me turn to something else that is transpiring with one of our allies. A young German intelligence operative arrested and subsequently admitting that he had been passing secrets to the Central Intelligence Agency. You used to run the CIA. Looking at this situation, what can you tell us about this case?
Well, the first thing I have to tell you, JD, is I have no facts. I know of nothing of the particulars, and so I can't confirm or deny any of the stories in the press. So let's put that there. Now, let's just talk in general. Look, espionage is a common activity. All countries, including Germany, conduct espionage. But you always have to balance the gains you might achieve through espionage with the broader political costs that you might incur if your espionage is uncovered and is unsuccessful. I suspect if there's any truth to this storyline, we are now in our government and at Langley are recalibrating the loss-benefit calculus that we use in these kinds of operations.
Well, we mentioned the fact that we always take a look around, even with our allies, and I don't know if that's the role of the military attachés who have diplomatic posting or how it's done. But in terms of our relationship with Germany, the story we hear is that President Obama was not notified. He did place a call to German Chancellor Angela Merkel after the arrest, but did not discuss the subject. Is it wise? Do you think the president was in fact not notified so he could speak honestly about this, or what goes on with that relationship between Langley and 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue?
Yeah. JD, it's not clear. And I've read the same press accounts, and I'm basing my comments only on the press accounts. It appears as if information about this alleged source certainly did not reach down to Pennsylvania Avenue. It may not even, again, if it's true, may not have even reached to the 7th floor at Langley. We give our case officers and our station chiefs in CIA an awful lot of authority within some left and right hand boundaries that we create for them at the policy level. So just as a matter of principle, I'm not willing to disbelieve a story that the higher reaches of the agency or the U.S. government were unaware of this. That would not surprise me at all. Now, I think it's really important. Angela Merkel knew about this, and she didn't bring it up, which I think shows a certain wisdom on her part. Look, if the stories are true, this is what we in the agency call a walk-in. This is somebody who volunteered himself to the U.S. government. Again, if the stories are true. That's got to be as much of an embarrassment for the German service as it is for the American.
That's an excellent point, too. In general, while we're talking about spies, someone who likes to style himself as a spy, and a guy we'd like to talk to you about is Edward Snowden. He is apparently asking for an extended stay now in Moscow. Are you surprised to hear that at all?
Oh, no, not at all. And I suspect he will get it. But you know, John, you play this out over time. Vladimir Putin has probably exploited this fella as much as he can profitably exploit him. And over time, it's going to be diminishing marginal returns for Putin's purposes here. And sooner or later, Snowden's going to become an irritant, not an asset.
Want to follow up, continuing on the theme of Edward Snowden, General, a story at our parent website, newsmax.com. Snowden providing documents from the NSA saying there's a list of Muslim Americans who have been monitored by our government. Do you have anything on this? We see the group of Muslim Americans allegedly monitored, according to Snowden. Do you believe what he's saying about this, and can we expect any other admissions in the not-too-distant future? We have about 45 seconds here.
Sure, JD. I don't know about the future. I read the Greenwald piece. It's very long. It's very complicated. And even Greenwald points out in his piece, he's not sure that these individuals were targeted. An overall point, JD, Greenwald's been complaining about suspicionless mass surveillance without a warrant. If these stories are true, this is targeted individual surveillance with a warrant, with a probable cause argument. That's really quite
important to remember. Yes, sir. General Hayden, we appreciate your assessment there. For in-depth analysis, you can go to lignet.com concerning our national security. Our thanks to General Mike Hayden, and America's Forum is coming right back.